What's going on, everyone? Welcome. Welcome to Wednesday Live. Welcome to Homebuilt Workshop. How are we all doing this fine Wednesday morning? As I get everything situated here, I need to chat. Where is that chat? So what's everybody up to? There it is. We got it. Sam's here. What's going on, Sam? How's everything going in your neck of the woods? I like that saying. Sam says, hello, Jeff and everyone. What's up? He says, it's Jeffafa. Not Ahmed. Greetings. Bear with me. I'm getting situated here. Getting everything in order. Hey, dude's here. What's up? What's up, dude? How's it going? Sam is a Jeff Dunham fan. Mike Johnson's here. Mike, morning. Good morning, Mike. How are you? Right on. Sam says live chat settings. Thank you for the reminder. I wish there was a way. There we go. Live chat. I wish there was a way to make that default. Maybe there is, but I have not seen that one. Robert is here. Robert says, howdy, peoples. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe and healthy. We are, Robert. So far. So far. Hope everyone else is too. Mike says YouTube commercial before live. The live was growing hair on the bald spot. That would be my entire head. Sam says Pizza Hut has gone into administration. UK is losing all restaurants. Huh. There's not too many of them left here either, honestly. Which, I don't know, kind of is a drag because that's like for me anyway, my generation, that's like what we grew up on as kids. You go to the Pizza Hut and get some pizza and play an arcade and you get the little salad bar or like the personal pizza. But yeah, there's not too many left. I know of like 2. There's probably more than that in the state, but there's one in town here that I know of, and I know there's at least another one in a town a little ways away. But yeah, I don't know. What has gone into administration? I don't know what that means. Yep, good old Pizza Huts. We're losing all the stuff that we used to like. Anyway, what's everyone up to? What's on your workbench? How have we been since last week? Cheers. A little coffee here. There's like something on the lens. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be. I don't see it on the screen, but I can see it on the camera. So I've been busy. Well, first, we have been busy. But a couple of different things. So I've been working on the cigar box guitar. Well, we'll just jump into that. I'm just going to grab it. I'm trying to remember what I had done last week when we talked about this. I don't think it was at this step. I don't think I had little sound holes in here. I got these corners. Maybe I did. And maybe if I'm repeating myself, then I apologize. But I have these little sound hole grommets in here. I did, actually, because I think I remember telling you about, I put my phone in there and sound came out. So never mind, I'm probably repeating myself. But I have this all ready to go. All of the neck grommets are in there. But these cool box corners, kind of a neat accent. Sound holes. Frets are in. All of the markers, fretboard markers, side dot markers, everything is ready to go. I've got the video's all edited, and actually this morning I finished, the thumbnail and getting everything scheduled. So that will be out this coming weekend. That'll be part 3. And I also have started on part 4, which just barely started filming it, which is going to be carving the neck. So I'm getting ready to do that. If this thing will turn over here and look down, look down here, down. Star. Okay, I gotta do this myself. I got my carving jig here all ready to go, and hopefully today we're gonna start carving this out. That's the plan, and that'll be part 4. Part 4 is going to be shaping the neck, getting the finish on the neck, and getting it attached to the body. That's the plan. So making pretty good progress on this build. Like I said, trying to include more information, a little more details. So it's making it a little bit longer series, which is absolutely fine. Like I said, I kind of like it because I'm trying to make it as all-inclusive as possible. So, yep, part 4 is in the works. Part 3 is scheduled. That's going to be out this weekend. Okay, let's see here. Heritage says going into administration means going bankrupt. Interesting. I've never heard it called that way. They just say that they're going bankrupt here. So, yeah. Well, that's kind of too bad, really, because I always liked that place. Is it the best pizza ever? No, it's not, but there's something nostalgic to me about going to a Pizza Hut. That's interesting. Robert says, yeah, I haven't seen many Pizza Huts around here either. There was one in Guthrie that almost folded when COVID hit, but after things opened up, they had trouble getting help to work. Honestly, I feel like that is the case for a lot of them. I know there's one actual restaurant in Colorado Springs that I'm aware of. We have one of those like takeout ones as well. But to me, that's not quite the same. You just call ahead kind of deal, or maybe they do delivery. I don't know. But you can just go there, pick up your food, and bring it home. But as far as the restaurant goes, I know of one in town. I don't know how they're doing. I have no idea. But another thing, outside, I'm just kind of wrapping it, kind of changing we're taking a turn here, but it's kind of, the Pizza Hut is directing that part of the conversation. So outside of this, of working on the cigar box guitar, we spent a few days this past weekend out of town. Actually, we went to a town in southwestern sort of Colorado, about 3.5-4 hours away, and spent some time there just for a couple days, kind of get away, see some sights in the mountains, sort of the mountains. And I think I've mentioned we have sand dunes here in Colorado. That's where we went, to the sand dunes. It was super cool. But while we were there in the town, speaking of Pizza Hut, we drove past, like, it looked like Time Capsule Pizza Hut. One of the old, Pizza Huts. It was still open. I should have went in there and ate, really, but I didn't. We didn't. And but as you drove by, you could still see the salad bar through the window, and like everything like you imagine it to be, like back in the day. But it was kind of cool. I'm like, oh, there is another one around. So I thought that was kind of cool. Again, I don't know how any of them are doing financially or whatever, but yeah, it was kind of neat. Tony's here. Tony says, morning sunshine. What's going on, Tony? Robert says, so they went to delivery and takeout only. Oh, yours did. I think, honestly, I feel like that whole, 2020 situation affected a lot of those kinds of things where they had to go to the delivery and takeout. Sam says, I had an idea of making 2 worktops at both ends of a table saw. The worktops having multiple transfer bearing units and 1 or 2 millimeter gap between the bench project. Both ends of the saw. Sorry, I'm kind of pondering through exactly what you're talking about. So are you talking about making them sliding to kind of turn it into a sliding saw? Because that would be interesting. I might need more information on that. Robert says they lost a lot of business after that happened. Haven't eaten there in 3 or 4 years. I haven't eaten at an in-store one in quite a long time. So yeah, it's while the restaurant is, to me, is nostalgic, I just haven't, I don't know, it's in a part of town where I don't go, so I just don't get down there. Gene Paul says, please react Captain America. Yeah, I don't do video or movie reactions. So there's lots of other channels out there that do. This is not that channel. Sorry. Mike says, what were your bridge be? I made a floating type out of rosewood, which sits on the top of the box. I have done several builds like that. For this time around, I'm going to be using this hardtail bridge. I've used this on a couple builds. So it's gonna get connected right about there, something along those lines. Just a hardtail bridge, very similar to like a hardtail electric guitar bridge, really. Adjustable saddles. I'm not using this chrome one. I've got a gold one. But yeah, it's just going to be this hardtail bridge. It works out really well. I like the adjustment. I've done some before where I'll do like a neck through to where it'll kind of come out the back, and I'll have string through grommets there, and then I'll do a floating bridge that you can adjust the intonation on that way. That works really well too. But so does this one, and I kind of like it. All right, there. Hold on here, Gene, Paul. Sorry, there, my friend. Okay. Sam says there was an old movie back in the 70s or 80s called Mac and Me. It was McDonald's. I remember that one. Like, I've seen that. Sam says yes. So making it a sliding saw. That would be kind of cool. Do some like linear bearings sort of deal. Yeah, that would be kind of neat. That'd be a fun one. I mean, I've seen some of those sliding saws. In fact, there's a channel that I watch occasionally. If you guys may have seen it, Engel's Coach Shop. You ever seen that? Where he builds like the old carriages and stage coaches and stuff like that. Wooden wagon wheels. He's got an old saw. His is old, like 1908, I think he said in some video. But it's sliding, and there's a lot of things that look like it would be really cool to have a sliding kind of saw. If I had a little more space, I would consider something like that, doing maybe a sliding wing or something like that. I just don't have a lot. I don't have room. I can barely cut a board that's 3 or 4 feet long, let alone like some sort of sliding mechanism. You got to have the space in back or in front. It would be cool though if I had just a little bit more room. Sam says to allow the project to glide more easily without the bench friction, but still using the fence and feather guide. Yes, yeah, there's tons of cool uses for something like that. I think that'd be a really cool project. I really do. Robert says they rebuilt a new Pizza Hut in Stillwater. Oh, yeah, a few years back, and reduced the seating by about 2/3 for a while. They went to takeout only, but then allowed in-restaurant eating again. Yeah, it's I think they're just kind of trying to scramble and do what they can, with the with what they have. You know what I'm saying? With the customers they have and with the all that stuff. Yeah, I know in the town where I grew up, or in the area where I grew up, there's one that closed down, man, probably about that same time, 2020. And I don't think it's never going to open back up. I think it'd be kind of cool to have to buy the building if you ever could pull something like that off. buy the building and like make it your workshop, or I don't know, turn it into like a house or something. Like it would still look like, the Pizza Hut. That'd be kind of fun. Brian, my hermit life is here. Says good morning. Good morning, Brian. What's going on? What's on your workbench today? Sam says you can make it the same size as the saw top. Yeah, you could. You could. There's a lot of ways you could do it. Change the design around a bit, make it work. What is that? There. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could do something like that. I mean, that's sort of what I did with my little router table. I kind of built it into the wing, if you can call it a wing, of my saw. Of course, it doesn't slide or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, I made it part of the saw. Brian says, chasing parts at the day job. Right on. Right on. My coffee is tasty today. I don't know why. I make it exactly the same every single time. Some days it just tastes better than others. Robert says, a couple days ago, I watched a guy build a workbench that folds up and folds flat against the wall when not in use. I have seen a few of those. Where maybe they've got a garage at their house, and they normally park the car in there, but they can pull the car out, and then the workbench folds out, has some legs or some sort of supports or something, and then when they're done, they fold it back up, and yeah, that's kind of cool. Believe me, I have thought for my little space. I know that there's other things I could do, but I feel like I have exhausted just about, not quite everything. I just haven't, I know there's ideas that I haven't thought of yet, but I feel like when I look around, I have no idea how else I could set this up to have more space or additional space. And still be able to film things. If I wasn't trying to keep a little bit of space for a camera, there might be a few more options, but to try to keep an open space for a camera and, at least to have a little bit of room, I don't know how else I could do this. I almost need to bring somebody in that can look at it and go, oh, hey, what about this? You could do, whatever. Here's a couple options. Hang on, I got to move the cable. Somehow I got the cable for the camera all tangled up. There we go. Yeah, I feel like I've exhausted a lot of options here, and I sometimes I just sit here and I ponder. I'd really like to have another toolbox base at least, because there's a couple drawers that are kind of full, but I can't figure out where I would even put another one. Like I have an idea for one, but that's where my shop vac is. Like it's just so there's just no more space left. Anyway. Terry, what's going on? Terry says, hello, Jeff. Hello, all. Terry, what's going on? How's things in your world? Robert says, not sure if I would really want one that attached to the wall like that. It seems rather limiting. Well, I can agree with that if it depends on what your goals are, right? If your goal, there's a lot of people whose main goal of their garage is to park their car in there. That's totally fine, right? If they want to park their car in there, then they maybe can't have a big rolling thing or something that, there's probably not even enough room to have a rolling unit that you can roll out of the way. Because I've seen a lot of garages where you've got just enough room maybe for two cars with a little space in the front and a little space in the back, just not enough room. And if your goal is to use the garage for your car, then maybe a fold-out workbench is, maybe the best option, right? But if your goal is to, maybe you're not concerned with parking your car in the garage, as a lot of people aren't, then you could use the rest of that space. You could have a rolling bench. You could have a larger workbench, maybe it's on wheels and stuff like that. It all just depends on what your personal needs are, or your wants, you know. We're all different, but I do agree with you, Robert. It is limiting, but again, just depends on the what your preferences are. Robert says, Terry, howdy. Eco Woodcrafts. Hey, 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 what's going on? How we doing? Sam says, online, there's a large solar power station that can power an entire home. Best Buy. Oh, yeah, I got you. I had to split the name with green circles. YouTube hates certain things. I got you. Got you, Sam. That's interesting. And you know what's funny? It looks like I can click the green circles. But interesting, yeah. I've seen some of those larger ones. EcoWood. Peace. Desperately Dave. Dave says, sup all. What's up, Dave? How we doing? Right on. Sam says I meant rolling work surface top for rolling projects, not rolling on the ground. Yeah, I gotcha. So the roller's on the top to roll your piece. I think I envisioned what you were talking about backwards, but still the same idea. I was thinking rollers, and then you have like a work surface on top, like a workbench on top, or not a bench, but like a, I don't know, plywood or something, so that you're basically building a sliding table. But you're talking about the other way. Same. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Sam. I know what you mean. I'm with you. What do they say? I'm picking up what you're putting down, Sam. Anyway, so carving the neck. Let's talk about that. There's a million different ways to do that. I want to know what's your preference. What if you guys were going to sit down and hand shape a guitar neck? What would be the first tool you would grab? Let's say your neck is dead square, like this one. What's your process? I'm pretty sure most of you, if you've watched any of the builds, are gonna know what process mine is. But I wanna hear from you. Eco Wood says, how's the guitar? The guitar, I'll show you. I showed it earlier, but it's all right. It's all right. Yeah. Right now, the box is basically done. I have the neck grommets are installed. Little sound hole grommets. I got these protective corners on there, which actually look pretty cool. The box is basically done, except for installing a volume and tone control for the pickup, which I'll be installing later. The neck is pretty much also done, except for the shaping. Frets are in, fretboard markers are in, side dot markers are in. It's got a 20-inch radius on it, which is something that I don't always do. A lot of times I'll leave them flat, but I wanted to try a 20-inch radius, just a slight radius on there. The next step is to do the shaping. Part 2 came out a week ago. Part 3 of this build, which is doing all the markers, the frets, everything. Part 3 is going to be out this Saturday morning. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And I just started filming part 4. I just did the introduction to where we're getting ready to start doing the shaping. That's my goal for this week. We're going to get this neck shaped, get some finish applied, and get this thing bolted onto the box. From there, I'm kind of working out the process for the rest. I think it depends on how long part 4 takes with the neck shaping. I probably won't get into much more than that. But part 5, I'll probably be locating the bridge, installing the tuners, that sort of thing, because I need to get the bridge in place to really know exactly where the strings are going to lay. I really need to string it up. Then I can install the pickup, which is going to go somewhere right about here. It's kind of weird because this center, or this decal here, sticker, label, whatever you want to call it, is a little off center. So everything's going to be kind of like this. So pickup will go somewhere here. Again, I need the bridge installed first. Then I'll install the pickup. Then I've got to do a little bit of figuring as to how I'm going to get the pickup will be sitting here, what I'm going to do for the wiring if I just drill a hole straight down through and bring it out underneath into the box. I think that's probably the way I'm going to go. And then I'll have volume and tone, like you can see that. Volume and tone kind of down here. So coming along good. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know if I can get it all done in a 5th episode. It might be 6. But anyway, it's definitely it's definitely coming along. We're making pretty good progress. Eco Wood says, LOL, trying to type with baby. That's okay. I'm with you. Robert says, I really like the standard jig you set up to support the neck when carving the neck. Yeah, it is pretty much imperative. It's like I don't know how else you'd carve a neck without something like this. Even before I built this, well, let's just move over there so you can see what we're talking about here. We can talk a little bit more about it. Totally fine with that. We're going to scoot this down a little. We're going to move the camera. Bear with me. There we go. So I don't know how, like I said, I don't know how you'd carve a neck without something like this. Before I built this one, actually I have another one too. It's actually longer that I built specifically for bass. This is the first actual one that I made. I had another, just a chunk of scrap that I drilled a couple holes in. It didn't even have a square base on here. It was literally just a chunk of wood, and I would clamp it down very similar to this. It was only about 3 or 4 inches tall. And I used that for a little while. In fact, I think you could probably, if you went back far enough, like several years back, like maybe the first guitar necks I did, I think you probably see that one in use. But I realized that it's not quite tall enough because this side you have lots of open space, but on this side I would run into the table. So then I would have to flip the neck around and always work off of this side, which I still do somewhat now, but having this taller does give you more room to be able to work without slamming into the tabletop. But I don't know how you would do that without some sort of way to hold on to the neck. Sometimes that's a little bit tricky. I do have holes drilled here that I'll put a clamp, and I can clamp down on the headstock. Since I do sort of a Fender style headstock, I have this little spacer, which spaces it up so that I can clamp here and clamp down here, and I'm not bowing the neck. See, if I were to clamp it here and then here, there's the headstock is up off of the surface so that it would bow the neck. And if you're trying to carve it straight, you don't want it to be bowed. But yeah, this works really well. Ideally, in a perfect world or in a perfect shop situation, I would build this as a complete floor standing unit, right? I would build it on a big heavy stand, maybe a bucket filled with concrete kind of thing, or some sort of a heavy stand so this can just sit on the floor. And I would just put a neck on. That way you can walk completely around it. And I think that would be awesome. Again, I just don't have the space. But some sort of a jig like this would... I feel that it's absolutely critical to have something like that anyway that will support your neck and give you access to really be able to carve it. And it doesn't have to be fancy, just something to hold the neck up off the table, and it works awesome. So let's see here. I can't read comments from down here. Hang on. Bear with me. Hair Dude says, haven't made a neck yet, but would probably go for the Shinto saw rasp I bought. Dun, da, da, da. The Shinto for the win. Let's see if the camera follows me. Oops. Forgot to turn that off. Oh, the camera lost me. Come on. Come on there, little buddy. Yes, that is my number one choice. When I'm hand carving a neck, the Shinto is what I'm starting with. I'm going to start with doing a few pencil lines, give me some layout marks where I want, how I want to shape the heel and how I want to do this transition right here. I'm holding it out of the way where you can't even see what I'm doing. Why is this thing all crooked now? Pencil marks, and then I'm going to town with the Shinto. The Shinto works awesome. It really does. Not sponsored or anything like that. That'd be kind of cool. Sponsored by Shinto Rasp. These things are inexpensive and they work great. They really do. It's my number one choice for hand carving. Sam says, I'm British, and to my shock, a grand-looking building in the U.S. isn't looking so grand. Not saying what this isn't showing that shocks non-U.S. people care. I got you, Sam. Eco Woodcraft says, when is your first show? Which show are we talking about? Guitar show? Band show? What kind of show? Maybe I missed something there, and if I did, I apologize. Mike says, I've used a spoke shave, rasp, and sandpaper. I have used a spoke shave too. In fact, I bought some spoke shaves, some old Stanley ones, with the intent of using them for shaping necks. But I've used them here and there just for trying them out. For some reason, I never really got used to using them first. I just reach for this every single time. Coarse side, finer side, and it just works. Maybe I need to try the rasp or the sandpaper. I'm going to list everything. The spoke shaves, there we go. I might have to try those again just for fun, but I didn't seem to like them as much as the Shinto. The spoke shaves are super cool. I like them as a tool, but I never got used to them for necks. Let's see. Sam says, can you make a broom handle into a guitar neck with guitar head for the tuners? You could. I've seen it done, actually. More so maybe shovels, but I've seen it done, for sure. Time Serpent says, hey, Winter Woolly, looking good. I don't get too much of a Winter Woolly. I usually try to keep it pretty short, but... Mike says, I looked at buying a Shinto. Never did. The thing about the Shinto is how inexpensive they are, really, for how well they work. Again, not sponsored or anything like that, but they just work really well. Robert says, I've watched other people carving necks, and it really bugged me that they would just clamp down the heel of the neck with the rest of the neck just hanging loose out over the floor. Yeah, see, I don't know how you would... I've seen that. I don't know how you'd carve it, right? Because I don't know how they do it, but I get after it. I'm like, and that thing would be bowing and bending, and as you're carving away. If it was just clamped here, it would be challenging. Apparently they've been able to make it work, but for me, my goal at the end, I want this straight. And I feel like, if you're only clamped at one end, and maybe down here it's okay, but as you get farther out, that whole cantilever effect, as you get way out here, you're putting pressure on. That's going to bend that wood. And if your goal was to, get a nice straight cut, I just don't see how, you'd have to do it seems like you'd have to do a lot more cleanup, basically. After you're done, maybe sanding with a long beam or something like that. I prefer to just have both ends supported so that I'm not getting this bowing deal going on. I want it to stay nice and straight. I think it just makes it a lot easier with your final shaping and stuff. You know, when I'm actually going in there with a straight edge. Let's see here. Let me grab something. When I'm actually going in later on with a straight edge, and I'm making sure that, you know, whatever taper I have going on in here, I don't want low spots. And I feel like you just have less cleanup as far as that goes if you don't let that neck bow, right? Well, you could use this for an example. If I clamp it at one end, yes, this is a lot flimsier, but if I push down here, it's not as big a deal. But if I'm filing, right, and I get way out here at the end, if that's your neck, I don't know, I just think it needs to be supported at both ends. Let's see here. Strings attached. Says a pedestal bolted to the floor. Yes, wouldn't that be awesome? That would be the best, I think. You mount the jig to the top of it, or whatever your carving buck is. Yeah, that would be ideal. Strings attached says I didn't have a Shinto when I made my first neck. I used a spoke shave. Yeah, I don't think, maybe I didn't use a Shinto on my first neck, but I might have. I'd have to go back and watch the video myself. I don't remember how I did it. Maybe I did buy a Shinto, but yeah, you spoke shave, you know, just like a wood rasp. Oh, I think maybe I did use a wood rasp now that I think about it. But yeah, I like the Shinto so much more. Hey Dude says, I have a Luthier's Pattern Maker's vise bolted to a portable Black & Decker fold-up bench. Works a treat for neck work and restringing jobs. Yes, those Pattern Maker vices are cool. And I have seen people use those. Robert, maybe that's what you're referring to. The Pattern Maker vise, and they have the neck just kind of dangling out there. Still don't, it's not my favorite method. Because, like I said, I like it supported at both ends. But yeah, the Pattern Maker's vise, Harry Dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a handy one. I don't own one, but many times I want to buy one. Sam says, I'm so glad Jeff was able to stand under his own steam. I don't think anyone would hear him calling to be, huh? On my own, you mean? Yeah. Eco Wood band show. At this moment, I am not in, I'm not playing in a band at the moment, which kind of stinks because I really should be. But at the moment, I don't have anything coming up. Unfortunately, anybody wants to start one, let's do it. I'm down. Sam Packins here says, good morning, Jeff and fellow followers. Rick, what's going on? How are we doing this fine morning? Glad you made it in. Robert says the Shinto do a great job. Surprising how smooth of a carve that they do. Yes, especially when you switch to the fine side, right? It does definitely get rough on the rough side. When you switch to the fine side, it does clean up quite a bit. And then from there, I'll go to a more of a file and sandpaper, and man, it makes a big difference. Sam Packin says, can't imagine not having my Shinto. I know, right? They're great. They're great. Sam, you could 3D print guitar internal cable runs to keep cables tidy inside the guitar body. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, you could. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'd have to think about it a little bit to how you'd integrate it. But yeah, it's definitely something you could do. Mike asks, are you using a radius template for the back of the neck? For this one, I'm not. None of the templates fit a cigar box neck necessarily, right? So I have some somewhere for some different guitars, that I use occasionally. Somewhere being the key word. Okay, here's one. What is this one for? This is for a 1961 J bass, right? And you could sort of use that, but they're not Well, I could almost could there for the first fret. The issue is this is only 1.5 inches wide. So for cigar box, I don't use any sort of template. I just make it comfortable, right? No, I hit my own self in the knee. I just make it comfortable for my hand. I shape it very similar to an electric guitar neck, but I don't use a template for that. I just kind of make it, we'll shoot for around, I don't know, 90, 090, no, 0.90. Somewhere around 90 thousandths, not 90 thousandths. About 900, 0.900, roughly here. I'll see that's where I'm going to start and give it a slight taper up here, 95 maybe. I would make it a little bit thicker than a guitar neck, but not much. I don't know. I just as long as it's comfortable and I have a little, it's thinner here than it is up here. Again, I'm holding this out of the way where you can't see it. Sorry about that. It's going to be thinner here than it is up here. And as long as it feels comfortable, I spend a lot of time doing this number, right? Like just seeing how it feels. And keeping the shape even. I don't get too technical about this. But I have made several of them, and I know that it doesn't take a whole lot to make it feel chunky, because it's thinner, right? So it doesn't spread that thickness out. But yeah, I just make it comfortable and make sure I have a bit of a taper. It's fine. Strings attached says, for CBGs, rough it with a half round router bit, then a Shinto and small paper. It's quick work. I should do the round over. We'll just, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to get all the way up there because I got the heel, but yeah, like a router bit rounded over. I've not ever tried that for a cigar box. It's a good idea. It's a good process. Time Surfing says, I believe it's Randy's Guitars and Broncos. Has some really cool stuff concerning necks. Randy's Guitars and Broncos. I have never heard of that channel. Is that a channel or just a shop? I have never heard of it, but I'm going to have to look it up. He says he made a hug for making compound radius. A hug. I don't know. Oh, Time Surfing says it's a channel. Okay. I'm going to have to check that out. I have not heard of that channel. Nice. I love finding channels I've not heard about. That happens not all that often, because the algorithm feeds you stuff you've watched before. And it's only when I really search for other stuff. You don't get fed other channels, and there's gazillions of channels. Side note, the other day, I was looking for a process for making, I don't remember what it was, like Spanish rice or something, some kind of food. And so I just searched for it, and up popped several channels with excellent videos. And these channels each had like 1 or 2 million subs, both of them. And I'm like, how have I never heard of these channels? The production was great and all that stuff. But they're just, there's these giant channels out there that you just don't see because it's not in your algorithm. Robert says, when I have watched those videos, they just clamp the heel of the neck. I recommended that they check out the video where you showed they made a neck jig. A couple of switch to it. Right on, Robert. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Sam says, I now have a Knipex multi-crimp tool, and I also get cable bootlace style ferrule crimp tool. Nice. Oh, they make good stuff. I only have one set of pliers, or one thing from them. It's these cutters right here. But they work really good. And I thought I ruined them. When I first got them, I used them so much because I was doing a lot of fence repair work, and these things work awesome because they cut so well. something bound up in there. I don't know if I got a piece of something in there, and like you could barely move these. And I spent literally, I don't know, hours working it back and forth, spraying, WD-40 in there. Finally, they loosened up and they're good. But here it says you could put a neck jig in a pattern maker's vise and get all around it. I have a jig for bolt-on guitar necks. Need to make one for bass. Yeah, that's a good idea too. It's high enough. The vise is off the bench. Now your jig is higher. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I have one of these carving bucks for guitar. This is, so I mentioned the first one was just like a chunk of scrap that I started out with before I made the one that's on the bench right now. But I only made this one sized for guitar. I didn't build it to accommodate bass. But a while back when I was building the bass, I had to make a new one. So that's the one that I made it longer. So I have two right now. One's short, a little bit shorter. One's longer for bass, and they're both basically the same thing. They got that T base, holes drilled in the side, holes in the end for clamping things, and they work really well. But yeah, you take one without the T-shaped base and just clamp it in your vise, and you absolutely could get around it pretty well. Robert says, I've seen people doing both methods, using the pattern maker's vise and just clamping the heel to the workbench. Like your method much better. Yeah, thank you, Robert. And I appreciate you shared that with other people. That's awesome. It is my preferred method. Sometimes it gets a little bit tricky. If you're trying to clamp something in a certain way to get at a certain angle, it can be a little tricky. That's where it's nice to be able to just, if you get to some certain application and you're like, man, I can't get the clamp right in a certain spot. Mine's made out of wood, so I could just drill another hole, as long as it doesn't affect the strength or something. Just drill another hole, or you can just make some sort of clamping provision. One thing on mine that I've been thinking about doing is, and I might still one of these days, let me show you, because I think this would be really cool. I don't know if I can get these clamps out, but so on mine, come on camera, I have holes in the end that I drilled in with a Forstner bit, and that allows me this number, right? I can come in here like this, clamp this in place. Once in a while, I'll hit my arm on this if I'm, in a certain angle, and that kind of hurts. But what I've been thinking of doing is, and I'm going to throw this out there, someone can feel free to do this. You know those pipe clamps that run on like a 3/4 inch pipe or 1/2 inch pipe? I think that you could weld up a little L so that a piece of pipe would slide in here. Then you have an upright of pipe that only goes up high, however high as it needs to go. And then you have like the pipe clampy part. That's a technical term. The clampy part slides on a short section of pipe just long enough to where you can slide it down, tighten it down, right? Then when you're done, you can loosen it up, and the whole thing would just slide out of the way. You would make this hole fit the pipe. Then then that piece could basically stay with your jig, and you wouldn't have to, you wouldn't have this sort of thing sticking up there. Your pipe probably would stick up maybe a little bit, but I think something like that would be cool. The main reason that made me think about that is because when I'm repositioning this, right, let's say I'll loosen this up. Let's say I loosened it up, and I take the clamp, like there's nothing really that keeps this thing in place. I mean, it's sort of, sometimes it'll dangle here, but a lot of times it just falls out on the floor, and then I'll reposition everything. Then I got to pick this back up. I'm like, man, if that was like in a fixed thing, I think it'd be a lot better. Or even you just take a clamp like this, these cheap like Harbor Freight clamps, and you chop that off and literally weld it to a piece of pipe. Then maybe it's not a pipe clamp up here, but it could stay in there and it could pivot around and it wouldn't fall out. I don't know. That's just something that I've been wanting to do. That's about the only thing that I've thought of since I've been using this style of thing is something that fit that better would be really cool. Ow, my knee. Sam says some Americans are against the metric system for some reason. Then I recommend that they try to measure 9mm in imperial measurements. It's going to be harder or longer to say. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not against the metric system. I'm not. It's mathematically, it's a lot easier. And it's funny. We were just talking about that for some reason a few nights ago or a few days ago, a week ago. I don't remember. That, yeah, in theory, the metric system's so much better. And I'm not opening it up for, I'm not debating it, right? Because some people get really passionate, let's just say, about that. It's the measurements are easier. I think I've said before, and even in videos, I'm so ingrained in the imperial system, right? Because that's what we are taught. That it would be a challenge to switch over, but I could do it. Yeah, I'm not arguing it whatsoever, Sam. Robert says, big unit guitars was one I told about your jig, and he did switch to a jig close to the one you made. Nice. Sam says, in future, if a non-powered tool gets stiff to operate, just add a little heat and WD-40 or actual proper oil. WD-40 is proper actual oil. Robert says, of course, the big unit has started playing in a band again, so his guitar building videos are really few and far between. Sorry, I was I zoned out there for a second for some reason. Mike says, just clamp it to the end extension. Yeah, you could do that too. Time surfing. Have a great week, everyone. Gotta surf. Surf. Right on. We'll go have fun. Surf it up. Oh, Mike says to store it. Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of different ways you could do, you could do things. And that's the fun part, right? About doing this kind of stuff. There's not a right or wrong. There's not. It's all ideas. Just trying different ideas. Robert says maybe design a clamp with just a cam type lever to lock it down. That's a good idea. So that you that's a good idea. Robert, I like that. I would still make it with a round tube that would fit in the hole in the end. That way you could swing down out of the way. Toggle clamp. Why could you not use a toggle clamp? I gotta ponder that. A toggle clamp might work good. I might have a hard time because I think I drilled these holes. I think it's like a 3/4 inch hole, or maybe it's a 7/8 hole. I don't think it's sized for a piece of pipe, but it might be. It might work. Maybe I could modify that. Because that would make it nicer. If whatever the clamp is, toggle clamp, that's a good idea. Or you chop up a regular clamp. It slides in and it'll just pivot out of the way. That's a good idea. I gotta think about that. Sam Packin says, yeah, whatever works for you. Yeah. Sam says you could use cable end bootlace ferrules. I'm not familiar with a bootlace ferrule. I'd have to look that up. In the guitar projects, tidy up the wiring. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do it. I don't use fittings though for anything. I wire it directly, wire bare end to bare end. So I'd have to look at a bootlace ferrule. I'm not familiar with that. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. I just want to look that up and see what that is. Bootlace ferrule. That's what they're called, huh? Bootlace. I am a bootlace ferrule. They're like little cylinders? Huh. How do you use them? What do they do? Bootlace ferrule. So it gives you like, is that what you're thinking of? Like some weird thing that you crimp on, and it gives you like a pin at the end. Is that what it looks like? Huh. Sam says yes to tidy up cable tips. Interesting. Yeah, I've not heard of those before. So then what do you do with them after that? Are they made to fit in a connector? Or, because I just solder. You just solder them end to end. Interesting. Robert says, build it and we will share the patent. I like it. The patent list is like a mile long for the patent owners. That'd be kind of fun. Everyone on the lives is on the patent. I don't know if that's a patent worthy thing or not, but it could be. Maybe if we sell 1 million of them. That'd be fun. Sam says they fit into connectors better. Gotcha, Sam. There is nothing that I use in a guitar that would connect into. I don't use any sort of, there's no connection, there's no like screw terminal or anything like that. If that was the case, I could totally see that, but I don't use anything like that way. There's some companies that do that. Is that EMG that has the quick connects or whatever? I can't remember. But yeah, I personally don't use anything where that would work, but I bet it makes it look neat though. Sam says autocorrect really sucks. Yes, I was fighting with it yesterday for something. Trying to text somebody something and it kept changing the words I'm typing, and I had to go back and I'd fix it, and then I'd go back and I'd fix it. Mike says, see you next week. Mike, thanks for stopping in. Have an awesome week. Hope you're doing great. And we will see you next week. I feel like I'm losing my voice. Why am I losing my voice? Barbara says, Mike, have a good one. Alrighty. Oh, I just got a notification that says your device needs to restart to install updates. Select the time. I don't want your updates yet. We're busy right now. Don't you restart automatically. I hate it when it does that. That'll happen in the middle of the night, and like all of a sudden the computer comes on all bright and like shines in from the next room, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night to the blue glow, and I think like I'm getting abducted by aliens. Sam says, don't forget to smash the like button. Totally free and most appreciated. It is absolutely appreciated. Sam says you need a beanie soon. Sam, I was wearing one this morning just for a little while. It's a little chilly outside. We were in the 30s, upper 30s this morning, 39 or something like that. But yeah, over the weekend, though, like I said, we were out of town, a few hours away, and it was definitely beanies up there. At least till the sun got up and kind of burned off that cold. We were like 22 degrees, which is, what's that? Minus 12? No, minus 6. Minus 5, minus 6 Celsius, something like that. That, we were talking about metric earlier. That is one that I would have a hard time switching to. We'd get there, right? We would eventually figure it out. But I'm so ingrained in the Fahrenheit. Because again, that's what we were taught. So yeah, Sam, I've already been there with the beanie, but yeah, very soon it will be all the time beanie. Ugh, I'm not really looking forward to it yet, but it is what it is. Hey dude, says EMG has the plug-in wiring working on a Gibson with a circuit board and plug-in pickup, jack, switch, and ground. Fragile piece of crap. I can imagine that. Anytime you introduce a circuit board, to me that just seems like it's a failure point. I mean, I don't know. It makes me think of those robo tuners. Remember those that they did for a little while? At first, the idea, I was like, no way. Like, that sounds pretty wild. It didn't last very long. Eco Woods, LOL. Sam, 13 Celsius in the UK right now. So you have to look over at the thermometer. Oh, that's not bad. Upper 50s? Yeah, not bad at all. Robert, one of the first guitar pickups I tried to use had a plug-in type of connector, and it was too loose, so it kept working itself loose. Oh, geez. Yeah, I think I've only done. I did an active. What was that? Were those EMGs? Was that an EMG set, or was that a Duncan? I can't remember. It's been quite a few years. I did a conversion on a friend of mine's guitar, and had to route the battery cavity and all that stuff. But it was the only time I used a plug and play system, and I don't remember what it was. I feel like it was Duncan Blackouts or something, but maybe not. It might have been EMG. Sam says, get an LED. You could get an LED low bay light in the workshop. Yeah, you could. I have LEDs in here now. And they work okay. Yeah. Lots of light. I need lots of light. I noticed that lately too. My eyes don't work like they used to, unfortunately. I wish they did, but they don't. Yeah, if I don't have a lot of light, even if something like is something that I could clearly read in here, if I go to a low light area, I can't read it for nothing. Like, it's kind of a drag. But yeah, so I need a lot of light. But the light in here is pretty decent. Robert says, I think the pickup was Seymour Duncan. Harry Dude says, I remember Seymour Duncan did pots with screw terminals. They also did fancy Bluetooth configurable 5-way switch with screw terminals. Interesting concept. Bluetooth? So would you like go into your phone and like change your pickup settings in an app or something? I don't even recall seeing that. Interesting. I'm trying to remember. I'd have to go back and watch. I made a video on like my personal channel way back when of modding this guitar. And I do not remember what it was, but I think it was Seymour Duncan. I think. Yeah. Sam says I got a 14,000 lumen LED floodlight. It's 200 watts. That's a lot of lumens. Robert says, I think the only way I might trust one of the plug-in connectors would be to use a dab of hot glue. That's a good idea. Hot glue, you could get it back off if you needed to fix something. Yeah, it's a good idea. I'll be using hot glue shortly on the cigar box guitar. That's, I'm going to hold this in place, I believe. But, yeah. Progress. Like I said, now that I have the part 3 scheduled for this weekend, it's time to get rolling, get this neck shaped. I got a few days. Schools here are still on fall break. So in this district, they get 2 weeks off for fall break. So it was last week and this week. So it's a tiny bit slower here in the shop, trying to get a little bit of a few minutes here, a few minutes there to get some things done. But schools will be back in full swing next week, so we'll absolutely have some more time. But definitely still trying to keep things rolling along, trying to do some, have some family time in there, which we've been able to do, which is super cool. But yeah, we're making some progress on things. Hair Dude says, yes, exactly. App on the iPad to select which pickup and coil you want for each of the 5 positions. That's kind of cool. Sounds like a failure point again, but I kind of like it. I'm not really sure. It's interesting. So you could change the settings of what you want it to do. That's interesting. Sam says, check those power stations out online. You'll have backup power rather than generators. Yes, that would be kind of cool. Robert asks, are you using a bone nut on the cigar box guitar? I don't know. I don't know if I'll use this or not, but I've been using this as kind of like to test, the fit. This is a Graphtec one, but this is a pre-shaped one, like for a Strat. I have used these before, but you have to shape or you have to cut the nut slot very shallow, and I don't think I cut it shallow enough to use this, so I probably will have to make one. I was toying around with the idea of making a brass nut. I might do that. That's something a little bit different. Otherwise, yeah, maybe I'll just modify a bone nut, or I'll use something. I'm not 100% sure yet. It'll either be graphite, bone, or brass. I don't know. Not 100% sure on that. Senpakin says, sounds like a pita, hairy dude. Not pita bread. Although I like pita bread. It does sound interesting. There's something that is a little bit intriguing to me, but I don't know if I'd want it. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it sounds kind of interesting. Who knows? Guys, I think it's about time we wrap this up. I'm going to do a few minutes of carving here, and then we got a couple things on the schedule for the day. But I want to say thank you to all of you for tuning in to Home Built Workshop for Wednesday Live for the day. And I keep looking at the picture. The camera I'm looking at, for some reason it's tilted today, but the picture doesn't look super, well, maybe it is a little bit tilted. I don't know. I appreciate everybody tuning in. And make sure that you do hit that thumbs up. If you haven't already, just click the button. Click it. Click. And just a reminder, don't forget, it's not coming up for another 2 weeks, I think. But we do have daylight savings time coming up, unfortunately, at some point over the next couple of weeks. Just want to remind everyone that it is unfortunately approaching. I hate it, but I can't change it. So anyway, you guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate all of you. Stay tuned for episode number 3 of the Cigar Box Guitar this coming weekend. And if you didn't see last week's video where I changed my jointer over to a helical head, go check it out. That was a fun one. And what a difference it made to switch that over to that Find by Tool helical head. Wow. I'm impressed. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. Sam Packin says, celebrate your day, folks. Sam says, thanks for today's fantastic streams. Francisco's here. He says, hey, Jeff, right on. Bye. Francisco, what's going on? And bye. Yeah. Glad you're able to drop in, even if just for a minute. Here dude says, stay well, folks. Catch you next week. Robert just had my 3rd ad, but I had to skip the stream. Really? Everyone stay safe and healthy. Robert says, watch the router switch. It looks great. Right on. Thank you all. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you guys have an awesome week. Get on your shops, build some cool stuff, have some fun, spend time with, outdoors, with friends, family, all that stuff. You guys, stay safe, stay well. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. Later, everyone. Take care. We're out of here. And